1. Jeff, Barracuda, and the North American Sweethearts bring it home under the banner of Cognitive Pride.
No one thought had a chance at the finals coming into this event. Coming as the number 2 seed. MilZy down, ripping through. Titan down, falls 3. A double kill for himself. It's a 5-man run. They're going to go for the win.
The world champions, Cognitive Pride, GG!
Season 2, we say hello to Europe as Adapting and Epsilon Esports slam it home.
A huge play. Adapting's about to go up. He's going to come crashing down. Who's the target? It's going to be all 3, and 2 will get stunned out.
Oh, no.
He's taking tons of damage.
Oh, no.
Chaos forced to move forward.
They don't have enough time for this.
Again.
They don't have enough time for this.
No, it's a deicide. Ladies and gentlemen, Epsilon Esports.
Season 3, new name, same roster. 2-time world champions, Rapper and NRG.
Well, there's 4 members left, and into the sky goes Adapting. The ultimate's way down. The Titan is under siege. NRG are looking to be world champions again. Long live the king! And once again, the king is Europe.
Season 4, Polar Bear Mike brings it back for America. E-United slams the hammer.
Cracking and knocked back. There's Deathwalker controlling things. maniaKK takes that Wolfie. Where's the remainder of the team fight?
Deathwalker falls to Benadu, and E-United keeps on going because maniaKK
That's 2! Still pushing forward. They're at the Titan. Only 2 members to play defense.
They can't do it!
And that's the game. That's the series. That is your Smite World Championship. Say hello to your North American victors, Polar Bear Mike and E-United.
Season 5, new map, new players, new teams, same destination. Who raises Thor's hammer? The Smite Pro League. Hello there, folks. Welcome to the Smite Pro League. My name's Tom Ballader. That's going to be the best taco. And today, we're going to start off with the European action. We've got 2 games on the docket today in our first week of the fall split. But first, how you feeling, Taco?
I'm feeling pretty good about this one. Can't say the same for these teams, however, because everybody's just trying to get their marking up in the standings.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle of the best here today on the broadcast. But first, we want to talk about what you guys can do at home. If you guys are playing, you want to grab some neat skins, go ahead and grab up some gems. There's a gem sale going on. Aggro made a joke where he didn't know any math. I don't know how much of a joke that was, though. He doesn't know math.
NA education, what can I say?
Oh, well. 35% off gem packs for a limited time. I like that graphic, actually. Look what you got there. Well, it's already gone.
We're not doing the gods bit again, okay? That was like a whole half a season, I believe. I was the one who had to deal with most of you guys trolling on that one.
Well, on that screen, there was Baron Samedi also
No.
next to... No?
No.
No?
There was no Baron. There were no gods. There's just the gem sale.
Should I move on?
Yes.
HR Rex is at the end of this split. You guys can come to hi-rezexpo.com November 16th through the 18th. On the top left is the Smite World Championship. The top right is the Smite Console World Championship. And then on the bottom left, you've got Paladins World Championship and the Paladins Console Wars as well.
I know what you were doing there the whole way through, by the way, but I'm just going to let you have this one for now, okay? But in all seriousness, folks, if you ever wanted a chance to come down, have a good time in the heart of Atlanta, that would be the time to do it because it's always so much fun, I think, getting a chance to really see what players and even the staff can be like behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's really dope. And don't forget, keep in the back of your mind the after party. Tickets for $50. They're not on sale right now, but every now and then they pop up, and it's only for a limited time. So when we tell you, be ready. That's going to be a lot of fun later on. But what's going on today? Let's take a look at the schedule and see what we're seeing. NRG is going to start the day off versus Team Dignitas. That's a high-profile match. And then Rival will take on Obey Alliance. I think I'm on the call for that one. And I'm interested to see if Obey can actually dance with Rival, because that seems to be a little bit of a mismatch.
Well, we actually spend a decent bit of time talking about this on Esports Weekly, but I mean, that first week, or this first week for NRG is a bit of a hot one, because not only do they have to take on Rival, we saw what happened there. Rival ends up walking away with that set with a clean 2-0 finish, and now NRG, for going up against Dignitas, I don't think that they can, or that they really want to try and afford falling in similar fashion like they did to Rival. it wouldn't be, I think, that uncanny of NRG if you look at their past track record where they have had a tendency to start off new splits relatively slow.
Sure.
But this could be the chance to change it up.
Well, for me, I actually put a video out on about this. I think that NRG were kind of bamboozled by the Baron. Right now, I think teams are kind of overvaluing what he's been able to really bring to the table. They tried him in support. They tried him in solo. Didn't really work out against Rival, who they trounced in summer finals. So if you're an NRG fan, I wouldn't look at how things went down on Tuesday, and say, that's the energy we're going to see. I think there's more to be seen, and I think that's what we're going to see against Team Dignitas.
I think on any given day, in fact, any one of these teams could suddenly rise up to the occasion, and NRG are certainly no different than anyone else. They have had a really strong summer split. I think that's where most of their momentum is riding off of. I think that a lot of people for a time were kind of questioning whether or not adapting still had it in them.
Yeah.
But what we've really noticed has been the resurgence of the King.
Yeah, I mean, the LAN, there was really nothing you can say about adapting. There was nothing you can say about the majority of the team. I mean, Yammyn came through, and I've been singing the praises of Yammyn forever, and now it seems like the rest of his team have kind of slotted in. Emil and the jungler adapting are playing lights out. I said during the summer split, specifically at LAN, that this was the energy I saw when they won 2 world championships in a row. And so that was all very scary, and then they come in the fall split, and they just get 2-0'd by Rival, and the second game wasn't even close. So
it was a bit of a barn burner, that's for sure. The Rival certainly handing it to NRG, but if there's one thing that I've learned about NRG throughout the years, it's to never expect them to fall to a similar fate. Because they get trounced by Rival, that's all good and dandy, you move on and get past that, and now I'm a little bit concerned for Dignitas even, because NRG, every time they come off the back of a loss, they go 3 times harder, if not more, in their next set.
You know, that is very true, but Dignitas also are a team that don't handle losing well. I think you can say that about probably most of our teams here. But when it comes down to Team Dignitas, this is a squad that, sure, they get mad, but they also go back and they do their homework. After missing last summer LAN, I think they're going to be back with a vengeance, and this is kind of a backhanded compliment, if you will. Dignitas also, these 5 individual players have a tendency to care a little bit more in the fall split. Just black and white.
They're a very emotional team. There's no other way around it. I think that while the public perception might not be as visible in that manner, I do definitely think that, at least as far as we're concerned, it's kind of our job to bring that little bit of insight to light. But Dignitas, certainly one of the more emotional teams. I mean, they wear it on their faces every single time they come to LAN. But I think the big thing here is they have felt a little bit more like a unit. I know that summer didn't pan out the way that they were hoping for it to, but as a whole, I still believe that Dignitas has more than enough potential to carry themselves through this set and quite possibly through the fall split.
I certainly agree, and we'll take a look at how everything winds up on the battleground of the gods. Dignitas will have the first selection here versus the pink and white. And yeah, like I was saying, Dignitas, these 5 individual players and as a unit turn up in the fall split. They perform better when they know that Worlds is on the line. Frankly, they know when they need to really take the test. You know, I was the kid that kind of never did the homework but then aced the test, and I get the feeling that those are the types of people that Dignitas kind of are. So we'll see how it all works out here versus NRG, who, despite the loss against Rival earlier, I think are the team to beat. No Naja, no Freya, says Dignitas. NRG banning out the Jean Kui that Variety's so powerfully known for. And with one more ban, very interested to see if it'll be the Baron, and it won't be. It'll be the Chernobog. Dignitas with the first pick.
I fully believe that Dignitas was probably gunning for that first pick Chernobog opportunity. I find it a little bit surprising that they would opt to eliminate Freya themselves, considering that they are first pick. I think that they could have had a little bit more contention there, or at least made the first banning phase a bit more difficult for NRG, but can't be that opposed when you get to claim Baron.
Sure. Baron is going to be the selection. Like I said, I do think the teams are a little overvaluing.
No, I'm
here.
right there with you. That was one of my first statements that I made in Tuesday's broadcast, even because there was so much prevalence toward that Baron pick, and I think that we all know that he is capable of very high crowd control moments, but you still need to really build your composition around him. And I think at a competitive level of play, it's a lot easier for pros to kind of figure out the inner workings of how to counteract that CC appropriately.
I think we're also seeing teams get used to playing with Baron. It's different playing with him, and as we see the team sort of work around it, I think we'll get more and more attractive Baron play. It's likely going to be the hands of variety this time around as the Morrigan is selected. Now, this could be a jungle the Morrigan, but with Robin selected, I think everybody's cut and dry here. Baron solo, Robin jungle, the Morrigan in the hands of Zyrhoes, and across the way seems to be just as simple. maniaKK on Sobek, the Fafnir in the support player's hands, and Artemis will go to Emil.
Every single team right now, it feels, is just wanting to gun for this Morrigan pick. And quite frankly, I'm almost waiting for the moments where we stop seeing the Naja, the Freya, the Cherno, and the John Kui bands, and we start seeing a little bit more of the Morrigan pinpointed out here. One of the most fun parts, I think, about getting to break down these drafts from an analytical standpoint is that teams get to just try and pressure pick out from their opponents directly. In competitive, it doesn't really matter what's good in ranked and casuals and all that nonsense. They just focus on what they know will work best against whoever they're going up. And I think in this instance as well, Dignitas versus NRG, these guys are so familiar with each other. I'm scared for NRG to see Zyrhoes get his Morrigan.
It is definitely one of the more scary picks. And, earlier in the season, right now I think we have some characters that are very, very powerful. Chernobog, Freya, Naja, these kind of stick out. But earlier in the season, before these characters were so potent, we were seeing a world where it was just respect bans, where it was just what your opposing team are playing. And I think once we all saw the conversation that Ajax was having, I think once a couple of these characters are brought down a notch, we might see a return to that. Because like you said, I mean, these individual picks are really scary. Ram going to be in the hands of Arkkyl. That's very scary. And an Amaterasu leads me to believe that we might see a Baron support here for Trixtank. I'm not going to put my money on that just yet, but I want to point out the Bakasura. Certainly an interesting pick. Let us know who's going to win. Taco, talk to me about Bakasura.
I think that adapting, a couple of things here for this Baka pick. Not only is he doubling down on early game pressure because he's got Raijin for his mid lane, but also the CC immunity on his ultimate. I think that that's something that not many people realize, but if you get the timing right on that, you can avoid a lot of crowd control moments. And looking at Dignitas' composition, right now, the brunt force of their CC is going to be coming out of that Baron and maybe the Amaterasu ultimate from time to time. But even then, I wouldn't really consider that a super reliable crowd control. You can say that Morrigan and Robin, they have their own respective routes and stunts and whatnot. But the problem with that is that then they have to be the ones up in front of the action. Sometimes you don't want your carries to be in the thick of things before the front line can arrive to really help the back line engage. And so NRG have this heavy dive composition. Fafnir to help buff the Bakasura and the Artemis. A lot of easy spread control. Raijin with the Raiju to also call out the Morrigan with the Invis. I think that NRG's draft is really well executed.
They've certainly got it on paper, but can they do it in practice? Our commentators are standing by. Dignitas versus NRG.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Taco, Finch, and Aggro here on the cast. Dignitas up against NRG. Two of that, I feel like, big three up there in Europe about to throw down after NRG, unfortunately, had that loss up against Rival. Can they bounce back here up against Dig?
I mean, historically, NRG has had a lot of success against Dignitas. I think that Dig has their work cut out for them here. No matter how good Dignitas looks and how well they're doing against the rest of the league, then they play NRG online and then they lose. That's pretty much the way it's gone. So I think that if NRG, this is a great way for NRG to simultaneously gain confidence and also get a very important win in the league. However, this would be also a great way for them to lose a lot of confidence should they end up losing this match.
There's definitely a lot on the line for this matchup because, as you said, these are points NRG have been able to count on up against Dignitas. And in this important matchup, they're trusting adapting here on this Bakasura. It's a pick that I feel like has kind of risen a little bit lately. He's had a few changes, some things that work in his favor, and adapting definitely trusts him here.
Definitely the big ones are the cheaper hasten katana means that his
core build path is getting better, that he doesn't have to spend as much gold. But also the change to takedown. Now, instead of just getting physical penetration, now those targets take percentage more damage. And that's not just from Bakasura, that's from everybody. So when you really can full commit, your full commit gets a lot better. Whereas physical penetration, it was really good, but it didn't interact well with his true damage of Butcher Blades. Now you just take more from Butcher Blades. So it really did kind of put him into prominence and just kind of a really good, not just reminder buff because it was substantial changes, but ones that were easily felt very quickly.
Adapting, playing it aggressively here too. Looking for that eat minion. He's only going to be able to steal away one of these small camps with the Zyrhoes and QvoFred right there. He wasn't going to be able to find much more. Zyrhoes also on a pick that he finds quite comfortable here with this Morrigan. Definitely is one he likes to pull out. And I feel like one of the better players at playing it in the base mage form as well. Zyrhoes also can get plenty out of the changing ultimate, of course.
Another character that got some recent changes where Dark Omen now clears the wave much, much better. And now you just have some lane pressure. And remember, towards the beginning of Season 5, the way that Hunter's Blessing interacted with Morrigan's auto attacks, where that third hit was proccing Hunter's Blessing that whole time. We saw a lot of Morrigan because she was able to get lane pressure and then utilize her transformations in order to deal damage in the early game. Once that was changed, we saw a little bit less of her because you just lost pressure so hard. Now you can actually clear the wave very well and still use that Changeling ultimate to get your damage off in the early game and get your safety in the early game. In the late game, she still nearly one-shots you. So I think that we're going to be seeing quite a bit of this pick.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. There's a lot of high-priority targets here. Can grab their own Bakasura. I think there's probably plenty of value in a second life of the party jumping out as well from if they want their own Baron. emilitoo, though, taking quite a bit of poke here on the duo lane side. Arkkyl landing some nice shots at those Astral Arrows. That's going to force the shell outs from both supports. But emilitoo's going to be fine.
Beads used by emilitoo as well, so not just both shells, but the purification beads by the Artemis. And that's where that Amaterasu passive, or not passive, but the first ability, that aura, really comes into play, because Arkkyl there is just hitting harder than emilitoo is. Even playing something like the Artemis, which is used to being able to win those boxing trades, especially with her new passive. She can slow you or have Fafnir disarm or stun you. It's not used to really losing those quite that hard, and I think it really caught emilitoo off guard just how much damage he was taking.
And this Amaterasu support was one of those picks that we kind of hyped up coming into Season 5. We thought that movement speed aura would be, I think, a little bit of a bigger deal than it ended up being. Like, she'd be getting picked all the time. She's certainly in and out. We do see her from time to time, but I like it every time she gets to come out, right? That gives you that aggressive feel over here in the support role. The Dazzling Offensive is such a strong initiation tool because it feels like it's so hard to get away from it as well. Trixtank has a lot that he'll be able to do and provide for this team early on to sort of pair along with this Robin, who I think is also going to be an aggressive force for.
I really like the balance that Team Dignitas went for in their draft. Of yes, Trixtank is playing a little bit more aggressive support, a physical warrior, but it's actually respectable physical damage than your mid to early game team fights, whereas Variety playing a mage won't have, you might have been a little bit too magical heavy otherwise. I think it balances out very nicely. It gives Dignitas some aggression on the left-hand side of the map, and so you don't have to just kind of sit there and take invades, that you can now be the ones invading the opposition. This is a lane picked to clear waves early and often and be able to invade, and it's been very successful thus far. I mean, Dignitas got the red buff and the purple buff earlier. Didn't quite get the purple buff, but only the red buff, excuse me. Were able to get their own purple and set themselves up for some good success.
Both of these Oracles going to be going over the way to NRG. Thought Trixtank might have just barely got in there in time, but to no avail. Speaking of Team Dignitas, they've got Baron on that side, so that means the Baron's Brew available to all of them. Feels like a chalice with the way it refills back to base. I'm bringing it up because sometimes we see everyone pick it up but the solo laners, because the health chalice can be so strong over there on the solo side, but with the Baron over there in solo, he's going to be able to use that Baron's Brew.
Trixtank has to use the ultimate in response to emilitoo's Caledonian Boar, able to trade ult for ult in that spot. It really a win for Trixtank because Dazzling Offensive is a lower cooldown, I believe, than Caledonian Boar. So if he can head on over and punish emilitoo for that, then that'll be a win for Dignitas. But it also does temper a lot of the potential aggressive plays that Dignitas can make around that duo lane side. Going back to the Baron's Brew, I think usually you will see solo laners go for the health chalice, but in this game in particular, Variety wanted to get his boots online as quickly as possible, so started with those. And he's not going to get poked out that much against the Sobek. I mean, that's just not scary poke damage, so you don't really need that many health potions. Whereas Baron, I mean, take a look at Variety's mana pool right now, even with a mana buff, is very, very low in that regard. Baron uses a lot of mana during the laning phase.
Yes.
And so that is something that you really need some good mana sustain.
And I think that's why he fits well over here in the solo lane. But this matchup is becoming, I think, an early front runner for a good answer to Baron is this Sobek, right? Lurking in the waters is such a good tool to be able to avoid getting pulled back in by it. You can kind of go in and even take it down early by just taking that stun for your team without having to worry about the literal stun itself. I think Sobek really has been a good matchup, especially because he can pull him back into the tower too.
Sobek definitely feels like one of the strongest solo lane picks right now, and it's because of the lack of Warrior's Blessing developing in this meta.
There's been
Warrior's
less of it,
Blessing got a nerf coming into the midseason patch, and so we've seen less of it, a little bit more Guardian's Blessing in that lane. Sobek, that's exactly what he wants. Can use the tower and his own minions to clear the way for him. He'll get them low, let his tower or whatever finish them off, then stack up that Guardian's Blessing, and you're not missing that poke damage trade that Warrior's Blessing really provided you with. He's so tanky anyways that he's not really missing the tankiness that Warrior's Blessing gave you. So that I think that's why we've seen a big rise of Sobek in the solo lane as of late.
Yeah, he just feels so strong, and his rotations are so powerful too. If he comes in, gets a tail whip for the disruption, a nice pluck, the whole rest of the team can be right there to follow up, and certainly they've got the tools to do that. Yammyn on this Raijin in the mid lane, he dropped a Taiko drum. That could be more than enough to try and cause some problems for whoever is unfortunate enough to get plucked in by maniaKK if he's able to land one of those. But Ryan, it's been a bit slow here, I would say, to get this one started. We saw a little bit of trading in duo lane where emilitoo got low a little bit, but other than that, it's kind of just been a farm fest. They're trying to get some items online.
This is typical between these two teams in particular, but makes sense for each of their drafts. Dignitas has a really, really good team fighting draft. You want to team fight around Rama as often as possible, but maybe actually get started now.
That's a good pluck. That's going to pull Variety back into some trouble, but not a heavy commit coming out from NRG. They didn't see much kill potential there. Meanwhile, now it's emilZy getting forced out. Dazzling offensive from Trixtank. That's going to be paired up with the Mystic Rush. Sets up an easy first blood for QvoFred and Dig.
Love this focus from Dignitas on the left-hand side of the map, setting emilitoo behind. These are the two early picks in the draft, right, for NRG. This Fafnir Artemis.
Zyrhoes now into trouble as well. Going to transform into the Robin for the overhead kick and the Mystic Rush. So good at disengaging is Robin. So a great choice if you're Morrigan in some trouble to get him out of dodge.
Really, really quick transformation there from Zyrhoes. Definitely had his finger ready to go on that button and was able to transform to Robin quickly and got 2 ults for his 1. Usually, 1-for-1 trades like that you're okay with because Morrigan ult takes so long to come up off cooldown.
Right.
But when you're getting 2-for-1 in that scenario, I think that Zyrhoes will be happy.
Definitely one that Zyrhoes can be okay with, and he was able to reposition on the back end of that fight. But I like that aggression that we're seeing in the middle lane is one more time. maniaKK lands a pluck that is going to pull Variety back into some trouble. He's incredibly low, and maniaKK finds the kill over in the solo lane as well. A great pull from the Sobek to set that one up. They tried it last time, but adapting didn't commit as hard.
Exactly, and that was because Variety's ultimate was down this time around. Remember, Life of the Party does give you some really, really solid damage mitigation, and I think Adapting was a little bit worried about that and didn't want to drop that ultimate just in case it wasn't going to be fruitful. That time, easy kill on the right-hand side, and whereas setting this duo lane behind is clearly Dignitas' strategy, I think we'll be seeing more of Adapting on this right-hand side very, very shortly.
And we got to start, to wonder if this Baron isn't becoming a little bit of a trap at these highest levels of plays, right? NRG had a bit of trouble with it when they played up against Rival. Dignitas are picking it, and that's starting to clearly become the focus. And I don't want it to seem like we're saying Baron's not strong. He's absolutely strong, and there's certain situations where he can do so much for your team. When you're sieging, we need the healing, the sustain, but there's also areas where you can exploit him, and we're starting to see it, I feel like, from these top-level competitors.
Exactly. What does Baron bring to your laning phase? He's excellent poke damage, hard to out-trade him because he heals himself so much while dealing damage to you simultaneously. Sobek doesn't care about poke damage.
No.
He just doesn't care at all. So he can heal it up himself. You don't do any damage to him anyways. So that's why Sobek is such a good lane matchup, and it can displace Baron, which is his greatest weakness as a character, is that he's easily moved around and tossed around, and maniaKK did a good job with those back-to-back plucks of setting him up for that death. And Variety didn't go for purification beads. Look where Adapting is right away. Sentries, make sure that there's no ward vision there. Now he did walk over a ward by Fire Giant, so Variety should know that he's still lurking on this right-hand side.
And they might not have as much kill potential with that life of the party available this time, which Adapting was so patiently avoiding last time. It's emilZy who's in trouble, removed instantly. The 4-man collapse too strong. Fafnir gonna have to take a seat.
One of the strongest parts of Amaterasu's kit is that dash silence. That really makes sure that kill goes smoothly for Dignitas. And now, burning down this Gold Fury. No response from NRG in time. Yammyn didn't feel comfortable stepping in there because of the lack of ward vision there for NRG. He doesn't feel like he can step up into that top left side and check Gold Fury by himself. emilitoo tries to take a little bit more of a circuitous path that is a bit safer, but means that he doesn't quite get to the goal in time.
And that's how much space you open up when you take the support out of it, right? It becomes harder for them all to make that movement in because they no longer have emilZy. So, and it's great recognition that they've committed 4 members there already for the pick, come right back over to the Gold Fury. They burned it, as you said, very, very quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if that Ama passive didn't help out quite a bit if she's in that damage stance as well. And they got the Gold Fury and a nice pick, slow down emilZy, who's already about 2 levels behind Trixtank. Dignitas looking good here at 11.5 minutes in.
Now, emilZy did manage to finish off that Gauntlet of Thieves first, whereas Trixtank a little bit greedier, wanted to stick around longer, so didn't back to start his stacking items. So emilZy, yes, down in XP, but is up in effective tankiness, at least for a little bit, though. With Kusari 1, Trixtank will get some extra magical defense in this spot. But emilZy does have to be very concerned until this Gauntlet is stacked up of the damage coming out of Zyrhoes and QvoFred. Qvo hasn't done a whole lot of player damage yet. I mean, second from the bottom thus far, but he's more concerned with making sure that he's farming efficiently. He has been ahead of Adapting from basically minute 1 in this game, and that's something that Qvo can do. He's really, really good at just turning on the I'm farming now mode and just getting as much experience and gold as possible. Very few are able to match him whenever that's his idea, it seems like.
And I like the way that QvoFred's been playing this one too. When he's putting out his damage, it's very relevant damage, right? When he was able to combine the Mystic Rush with that dazzling offensive with Trixtank earlier on and find the pick. So, you know, he's not going around just looking for harassment necessarily, as you said. It really is more of a mindset on that farming. And when he's ready to turn it on, he'll certainly be there. Has that blink available to him as well. A great initiation tool for the Ravana, and QvoFred really shouldn't have any trouble closing that distance.
Zyrhoes has that Messenger's Mask, and I'm curious as to where this is going to go, because a lot of players are just leaving it at this because it's phenomenal for its cost effectiveness. I mean, 30 magical power, CDR, you just aren't spending a lot of gold on it. Really, really good. But also, Bumba's Mask is really solid, so you can still pick up Bumba's. I wonder if Zyrhoes will leave it here, go for a pen option, come back and finish Bumba's for that movement speed. This is a little bit different than the build that Whirlwind has been going for, with the Morrigan in the mid lane, where he starts Boots 2 and Doomorb, or Lost Artifact, then finishes cooldown Boots, gets Doomorb, then goes in to the Bumba's Mask. So I'm interested in seeing how different this style really becomes. Right now, Zyrhoes is going to do more damage than that Whirlwind build will do, but he won't have nearly that same rotation power and movement speed that the Whirlwind build provides.
I really do feel like this Bumba's has kind of accelerated Morrigan in the meta, hasn't it? I mean, Morrigan is strong in her own right, and she certainly was seeing some value anyway, but the ability to go this sort of movement speed build where she can just zoom around the map, she can close distances fast, she can be another way to initiate for your team with that initial stun when she comes out of that cloak. Yeah, I feel like it's such a strong tool. Sometimes it's more than initiation. Sometimes you're just dead as a result of it. So it really, I feel like, has opened up a new avenue that some of our mid lane mages can open up. This Pyromancer, though, might not be as easy as Dick thought as maniaKK shows his face.
I agree with you. I do think that the resurgence, or I guess kind of existence, of Bumba's Mask has definitely been another factor in the Morrigan's rise back. And yes, she doesn't have an easy way in or out. You kind of have to choose one or the other, easy way in or easy way out. But everything becomes a lot easier from getting in and getting out when you've got a ton of movement speed. So it works out.
emilZy is going to go into the Draconic Corruption, get this fight started off the right way as a dragon. But unfortunately, Dignitas don't really seem to want much more here. So emilZy has dropped the ultimate, but are they going to be able to force anything on the back end of it? maniaKK rotates in, immediately is met by Variety and Zyrhoes. They get a good bit of poke off. Yammyn looking for some poke as well, but that's the Draconic Corruption. Not really much value comes from it.
That's almost the result of the conditioning of just from one little engagement. Remember, the Gold Fury happened because Dignitas picked emilZy off of an in-stealth Morrigan stun into a great CC chain, Look at the ward vision on the bottom right-hand side for NRG. Nothing. I mean, they've got a ward sitting in mid lane. emilZy doesn't have a lot of information as to who else is around him. So he hears that Morrigan stun start to come his way, and so presses the ult button to give himself immunity. So he immunes the stun, sure, but now his ultimate is down right before the Gold Fury respawns. So that's actually critical timing that Dignitas may be able to take advantage of.
Give them an opportunity to try and group up around there one more time and look for picks as maniaKK continues to get good poke off onto Variety. But you wouldn't be able to tell if you just look at their stats. I mean, maniaKK is still, or rather Variety is still level 14. He still seems very even and very relevant. It's not as if either one of them have been able to pull away from the other. So even though this matchup, I feel like, can kind of be a strong one for this Sobek, it has not slowed down Variety, even with adapting, showing some attention here early.
Yeah, but it was only those 2 times, and one wasn't a kill.
That's
I mean,
true.
It was just a little bit of poke damage. I am surprised that there was a window where after Variety was dead, his ultimate was coming back up, but he was still only level 10, and he didn't have purification beads. He started with teleport in this game. And yes, I understand Life of the Party gives you damage mitigation, but I mean, Bakasura has so much damage in the early game that's so hard to avoid. I do feel like adapting could have gone over at least one more time and tried to get at least one more kill.
Regurgitate comes out, forces the Aegis from Zyrhoes early on, and the Purification Beads does get pulled in by that last tick, but overhead kick, we've seen him turn to this Robin once before, allows him to safely disengage. That's 2 ultimates coming out from NRG again to get the Changeling ultimate from Zyrhoes.
But this time they get both relics from Zyrhoes as well,
right,
which is a big differentiating factor. That is an absolute win for NRG because there isn't a lot of CDR. In fact, only the 10% coming from Messenger's Mask in Zyrhoes build. So that is a long, long time that Changing will be down. Yammyn tried to use his ultimate preemptively so that he could taunt Zyrhoes and prevent that transformation from coming through. And I think that would have been enough to get the kill if QvoFred hadn't shown up and made sure that adapting couldn't continue the chase to continue those auto attacks.
The Zyrhoes will be a lot less effective if they were to start this fight around the Gold Fury, and that's what you got to think it was happening, right? Dignitas came in and they were able to force down emilZy's ultimate early on, the Dragonic Corruption, but immediate response from NRG now has Dignitas the team that's actually hampered and might be keeping them from wanting to go for this Gold Fury. And from what I'm seeing on the map, they're not positioning aggressively as if they want to grab this one. I mean, Ryan, we're approaching the 18-minute mark here in this game, and we still really haven't seen either team make a particularly large move aside from that collapse onto emilZy that led to the Gold Fury.
It's typical European SPL. If you guys have been watching for a while, this is how it goes. It's close, it's close, it's close, and the game's
It's a great target. Zyrhoes has really no tools to get away from this. Adapting shreds him with the Regurgitate and heals right back up. QvoFred wants to come in and try and force some kind of trade onto Yammyn, but he's got the entire squad here to force him back. NRG find a nice clean pick.
That's beautiful by adapting in the right spot at the right time. This Bakasura, he was one of the first ones to bring it back out after the changes and continues to look pretty good with it here.
And we saw him do an important Purification Beads in that last fight as well. Zyrhoes had one last out with that stun to get away as emilitoo needs some help over here in the dual lane. Aegis lets him get away for the first few shots. That means QvoFred's going to have to keep up the dive. Mystic Rush has to be committed, takes a little bit of poke from the tower, but now Trixtank in between 2.
Trixtank takes no damage from Yammyn though. emilZy gonna use that Draconic Corruption, beads from Arkkyl preemptive, but good enough to get away from maniaKK. Tycho Drums coming through, but not the targets that Yammyn was looking for.
Yeah, Variety responds with the life of the party, but maniaKK is right there to cause some more trouble. Pluck pulls him right back in. Adapting has the damage. Another kill comes out for NRG to try and even things back up. Now Trixtank is the target. He's been locked down. Percussive Storm going to crash through as well, but a good disengage as Trixtank retreats.
Very good discipline there from NRG because they were winning that fight hand over fist, and it looked like adapting was going to be able to keep going. Cooldowns were coming down from Dignitas, and it looked like it was going to be a team wipe, but Zyrhoes was coming back from base from being killed earlier on, and that was just good game knowledge by NRG that was happening because they don't have any wards by that red buff. The path that Zyrhoes was taking, that's just that mental timer that these players have of, hey, we're running out of time here. He's going to be here. Dignitas could have turned and wiped that fight had NRG continued to chase, but good discipline by the 2-time champs.
And we're seeing the way that these tools all end up getting chained together, right? Yammyn is in the Tycho Drums to try and pull Variety in. Well, then Variety's like, okay, I'll use Life of the Party. That CC immunity. Well, then maniaKK's like, it's my job to be there for you when you're done. He's at the front absorbing the damage and gets the pluck to pull him back in. The Shell was there to back him up as well. But I love the way we're seeing all these abilities get chained together and not allowing the maximum value out as Gold Fury now getting burned very, very quickly. emilZy's here with the hammer. emilitoo wants to contest as well, but Dig already confirm it.
Wow, and they get emilZy as well. Knowing emilZy's ultimate is down really opens that door for Dignitas to full commit. And that looked NRG-esque to me, where instead of trying to worry about do we get the objective or not, who cares if we get the objective? Let's just kill this person. If we get it, sick. If not, we're going to have a power play anyways. The objective is really just a means to an end in that position for Dignitas, which is such a different way of thinking, right? If the beginning of competitive Smite, it's kills, kills, kills. Who cares about objectives? We're just running into each other 5-on-5 as often as possible. Then the next wave, the renaissance happens, and it becomes kills are cool, but objectives are more important. The Pain Divions of the world start really pushing their teams forward by prioritizing objectives over team fights. And now this is the next natural evolution, I think, is that kills, objectives are very important, yes, but they aren't the end-all be-all. If we can, it's because it's not about the initial objective. It's about what we can get after this objective, and in the forethought of we might not get this one, but even if we lose it, our opportunity cost, our risk reward here, we will get this and this if it goes poorly. We will get this, 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 and this if it goes well. So let's take that risk. And that's something that NRG did beautifully against Rival during the summer finals. And that's something that Dignitas did right there. If they don't get Gold Fury there, who cares? They get a kill on emilZy, they get a tier 1 tower in mid, and they get Pyromancer. That is more valuable than Gold Fury. If they do get Gold Fury, which they did, the game's blown wide open, and Dignitas now has a big lead.
Dignitas do indeed have a lead. They're up about 5,000 gold, 6,800 experience. And I think you're dead on there. It's this sort of recognition that objectives now are ways to force fights in games where they won't fight otherwise. And so Dignitas are saying what we really want to do is try and punish you because we've recognized a power spike. We've recognized a power play that we have. And what they recognize that emilZy didn't have the ultimate. They bait him in, they get the kill, and they happen to get the objective, and now they're able to get more.
But here's the problem with this strategy is that it's hard. Like, it seems like a stupid thing to say, but you know, going for kills,
it requires
that's easy.
A lot of execution.
We're just getting kills. Going for objectives, that's also kind of easy. We just won't fight you, and then we'll get objectives where we can. This is, you have to know exactly what's going on in the course of the game, find your right spots, because not every time just saying we're going for the objective, but we're really just trying to fight because we think we can do it. No, you need to have your next 8 moves planned out.
Already the beats have been forced out by Variety. maniaKK does a good job there, but he might pay for it with poor positioning. He takes quite a bit of poke, and Zyrhoes is zooming in on the left side of the fight, but Charge Prey is enough to allow maniaKK to disengage. Variety, even though they got good poke on the maniaKK, is still without his beads. That could be an opportunity the next time NRG looks to engage.
Fire Giant, it could be an option here. Teleport is up for maniaKK, so he's going to get back to this fight quickly. Zyrhoes the one doing the zoning. emilZy on the receiving end of the stun, and Zyrhoes able to just outrange that poke from Yammyn. Shouts to Messenger Mask.
This is where Dignitas, though, have historically gotten a little bit impatient. It feels like at these late parts of the fight, can they keep up this same discipline they've played so well with adapting on the backside of the fight? It's Zyrhoes who's going to recognize it first. He immunes the stun, but QvoFred has way too much damage. Mystic Rush to follow him over the wall. Shots coming in as well, but Shell allows him to retreat.
Trixtank not going to let it go quite yet. He dashes forward as emilitoo now the focus by Variety. Hello, life of the party. maniaKK, you're invited. But he might have to take a quick exit, and DD does.
Dazzling Offensive is going to be enough for him to find the kill. emilZy gets stunned. He's low HP, and Arkkyl's right there to find the shots. We all know where you're landing, buddy, and the damage is waiting. Variety finds the kill. 2 quick ones for Dignitas. 5v3. They turn around to the Gold Fury, or Fire Giant, rather.
Zyrhoes still looking for Yammyn. Book of the Dead, a massive shield, but Zyrhoes doesn't want to let it go. Had the transformation, and may have Mystic rushed into the wrong neighborhood. Great turnaround route as Fire Giant goes down for Dignitas. That was the dream positioning from adapting in that spot.
Yes.
I mean, that is ideal that he is behind everyone with no vision whatsoever from Team Dignitas. But NRG just a little bit late to push forward to help him, or adapting needs to give that up and say, my team can't help me in this spot. It has to give that up instead. Dignitas able to get all the positioning in the world because of a turnaround by Qvo and Zyrhoes onto adapting. And man, this Baron is doing an awful lot for Dignitas. The damage that Variety's been able to put out, this is absolutely the most damage-oriented build we've seen out of a Baron quite yet in competitive play. And I think that while Baron is, by nature, a low-damage mage, much more focused on utility, if you're still only hitting people with Vivid Gaze for 180 damage, that you don't need to be respected. I mean, you're not doing anything to really warrant a big focus. But with Variety doing as much damage as he is, and healing, and CCing, and bringing all this extra stuff to the table for Dignitas, NRG doesn't have a choice but to try and focus him, but he's still doing everything that he needs to be doing. That healing that he's been able to put out hasn't been impressive yet, but it only takes one team fight for that Consigned Spirits to really turn the tides.
Well, the Gold Fury going to stack right on top of that Fire Giant. Dignitas have already grabbed a 10,000 gold lead. And that's only going to get worse as they grab these 2 Tier 2 towers to add about 3,000 extra gold to their pockets. NRG now have no choice but to fall back and defend on those Phoenixes. And what a defense it's going to have to be to try and slow down Baron, Morrigan, and Trixtank playing this Amaterasu. They have quite a bit of siege potential.
This is going to be a tough defense for NRG for sure. Now, finally, Yammyn has some penetration. I mean, Trixtank's been more or less immune to damage from Yammyn throughout this game because he rushed that Genji's guard right after the Gauntlet of Thebes. Yammyn finally has that pen that he really needed. Chin size done for adapting is a good look for NRG, but Bakasura has such a tough time in these siege defenses. How do you get in? You know, at what point do you actually get to blink in and attack? You have to be really, really late to the fight, and when you're down by this much, it's hard to be late to a fight. So this is going to be difficult for NRG, there's no doubt.
Yeah, I always describe it as the Assassins really want to get lost in the fight, right? They need everyone else to, for some reason, think there's 9 people in the game, and for you to be able to sort of loop in on the backside. And that was what was so frustrating about their fight, right? Is because Adapting kind of had that on the Fire Giant fight, right? Where they didn't know where he was, they lost track of him, but he held that position just too long. He's got to try and find a way to make that same thing happen here on the Phoenix Siege. They can get Dignitas to overcommit, then he can look for the wraparound. The question is, can the rest of NRG live through that overcommit in a 4v5 long enough for him to wrap around and sort of punish?
Man, Dignitas is all level 20, Finch. I mean, even Trixtank at this point is level 20. That's really relevant as an Amaterasu playing that warrior support. You're really getting a lot from those levels, and he is nearly unkillable at this point. Yammyn's only level 19, so is emilitoo. Even maniaK's only level 19. That is a scary proposition to be facing down 5 level 20s. You don't see it that often.
Zyrhoes keeps him in lane, pushed up, stun land, Adapting, has to use Regurgitate. Zyrhoes goes into the Robin one more time, and he ends up just punching out the minions, nothing else to do. The rest of the team's going to push in on the left-hand side. maniaKK look for the blink, but Variety uses the beads to get away.
Now both tanks pretty poked here for NRG. More poke coming, but Zyrhoes going mano-a-mano up against Yammyn. Adapting, gonna throw his hat in the ring. Great jump on the stealth Zyrhoes. Does get the kill for NRG, but left side Phoenix Siege going well on top of that.
emilitoo is able to find Variety. Yammyn is now rejoined the fray. He's putting in some damage of his own, and Adapting is getting exactly that loop around we talked about, forcing Trixtank out. QvoFred falls, and even though Arkkyl finds emilitoo, Adapting's right here to get the trade. A huge defense for NRG as they take 4 kills and push Dignitas back.
Now, no one's catching Trixtank in this spot, but to have 4 for 1 in that area, I mean, Adapting's got some serious speed here, but mid-Guardian Mail should be enough to get Trixtank out of there. Indeed it is. To lose no Phoenixes, go 4 for 1 in that spot, feels really good for NRG. And then you look at the map and you go, we are really far away from winning this game.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot more of those.
Exactly. I mean, you have to win 2 more of those fights in that fashion to be able to even think about winning. They'll only get a tier 1 in mid off of this, maybe a tier 2, but that seems a little bit ambitious as well without emilitoo up to do that real objective DPS.
And Zyrhoes is like just barely away from making that work perfectly, right? Because the idea is that he's pushed up the wave, he's waiting right at the tower line in the invis, and Adapting doesn't quite know where he is, steps a little bit too far forward. Zyrhoes lands the stun and all his burst. It's just not enough for the kill. Adapting responds with the Regurgitate and forces him back, and then he and Yammyn are able to re-engage when Zyrhoes doesn't have any tools left.
That's one of those where Zyrhoes kind of gets punished for doing the right thing. In a lot of your practice against anyone but the best players in the world, going in, using that combo, then immediately transforming and overhead kicking for that last little bit of damage will get you 100-0 kill. But Adapting a little bit too quick on the response, is able to jump away. So it's almost correct to just understand that you're going to get counterplayed and not use your transformation in that spot. Then you're going to look silly whenever they don't have beads and they sit there and you're like, oh, I could have killed him. But that's kind of the mind games that happens at these top levels, where next time it might be better for Zyrhoes to hold his transformation, even though that's objectively not the best thing to do, because it takes away your best case scenario, which is one-shotting the other person. You kind of have to be ready for the eventual response that you're going to get from the other side.
But at the very least, Dignitas can look back at that and think, man, Zyrhoes does 90% of somebody's HP, right? Which ain't too bad by any means. So if they can get that same execution to work out, as you mentioned, just a little bit better in their favor, that certainly could have been the end of that game, a 5v4 without adapting in Dignitas' favor, had Zyrhoes been able to make it out of that one instead. So they'll give this one yet another try. They've gone back, grabbed another Fire Giant, went and spent any more gold that they had to make sure they are as full built out as they possibly can be, and give this push one more attempt.
Now, the only person that can really die one burst from Zyrhoes now at this point is emilitoo, because Book of the Dead is there from Yammyn that saved his life earlier. Adapting as Spirit Robe now, so that one-shot combo that's led with a stun becomes a lot worse because of the damage mitigation that comes from Spirit Robe passive. So now Zyrhoes has got to try and hunt Emil and take a look at where Emil is positioning. Literally as far back as he could possibly go while still staying relevant to this fight.
Yeah, he absolutely understands there's a bullseye on his back, and he does not want to be the one that's in the crosshairs of Zyrhoes, who's again splitting this push up. Adapting wants him though, blinks in with the Regurgitate, stun lands from Zyrhoes. He transformed into the Robin and wants to Mystic Rush for more fighting, but has to run away from Yammyn's damage. The shots are coming out from Arkkyl, so he won't have that Astral Barrage as Dignitas commit pretty hard onto the jungler.
And again, Zyrhoes' transformation not really relevant. That's what adapting is looking for every time, is just the ability to strip that away from Zyrhoes. It takes a lot of his protection away from him, a lot of his maneuverability away. Imagine a team fight where Trixtank's able to initiate with a Dazzling Offensive. You use your beads, you use your ultimates for CC immunity, and then Zyrhoes Dazzling Offensives you. There are a lot of options. It's not just Ravana, I think, now. If there's only one person in front of him, transform into Baron Samedi and use that ultimate to pull them in. There's lots of good options at this point now. Even transforming into Artemis on the late game siege to get a stun that will hit basically the entire team and give you more Phoenix damage is a viable option. So Adapting's done a good job of making sure that Zyrhoes doesn't have those available for these late game options.
I was going to say that NRG got some good poke, but silly me, Baron's on this squad,
yeah,
and he's done a great job sustaining back up the entire team just by landing that second ability. Really only needs to hit one person with some of that hysteria on him, and Variety's done a good job healing the squad back up, but they're still going for this push. They've got a minion wave. Trixtank's already past the Phoenix line, gets caught in a trap, has to Dazzling Offensive a little bit earlier, and emilZy responds with a Lurking in the Water of his own, or at least maniaKK does. Now NRG are going to regroup, one ult each light.
Yammyn trying to get some poke onto Variety. Can't really do the dirty work as Cubo first one in. Tycho drums out from Yammyn. It's Trixtank the focus. Regurgitate as well. That'll get the job done for NRG.
Adapting goes back in aggressively, but might have to rethink it. maniaKK with the pluck pulls QvoFred in, and he falls immediately. Another siege going belly up here for Team Dignitas. Zyrhoes wants to come in inside the cloak. Arkkyl is able to find the kill onto emilitoo, but emilZy's there to trade things right back out. Arkkyl wants to stand tall, but can he do it?
Jump in from Yammyn straight into the Aegis. Arkkyl gonna roll backwards. Variety gets a good heal off, but this one only hits onto Arkkyl. Arkkyl owes Variety a bit of a thank you note for that consigned spirits that kept him topped off in that fight. And Dignitas just having trouble breaking this left side Phoenix.
They are.
Now it's time to think, okay, what can we do differently this next time? What went wrong? Well, Trixtank's ultimate was a bit premature, wasn't able to really get a whole lot out of NRG, but in Trix's defense, this is a hard team to Ama ult. I mean, there is tons of mobility. emilZy, you're never going to hit in a million years because his leap is good and his ultimate will get him out of it. Yammyn and Adapting can both leap away. maniaKK can use his ultimate or dash away. emilitoo is sitting so far back that he's not even a viable target for that. So this is where this team does lack a bit of initiation underneath this Phoenix, and NRG's doing a good job of staying very patient, not doing Dignitas' job for them. I wonder if a transformation from Zyrhoes into emilZy to go straight into a draconic form, get your initiation that way, start pushing your way into the Phoenix. Probably not a horrible option at this point in the game. I think I still like Zyrhoes splitting towards mid and trying to get a pick towards the mid lane as a potential option, but now he's finished off that Bumba's Mask, so he lost a bit of damage by going for finishing off that item. Sure, he gains a lot of mobility, but now he's taking more damage and doing less damage. I was really expecting Zyrhoes, the way he's played this game, to not finish Bumba's, to sell Messenger's Mask and buy a Soul Reaver or an E-Staff, or insert burst damage item here to try and get that last little bit. Now those kills where Adapting is getting away with 300-400 HP, Adapting's getting away with 500-600 HP now, so you're really not even having that full-on kill potential anymore.
But that's why Adapting's presence in these fights has been so important, right? Because he's kind of forcing Zero to use the ultimate suboptimally every time. He's turning into the Ravana and really not finding much except keeping himself alive on the back end of it. His ability to sort of check Zeros when he's moving into the mid lane to what's been important. Iger, you and I have had this conversation before, right? About sort of winning your one-on-one matchup. And that's kind of what adapting, I feel like, has been doing here. Zero's trying to force that issue in mid, and adapting is at the very least pushing him back and not letting him get what he wants out of it.
And that's where Bakasura, we already talked about how he can struggle in these late game 5-on-5s, you know, mash him ups on the Phoenix. You gotta you just don't do that. You just do something that you can excel at, which is your one-on-ones in the late game. And so adapting has done a very good job of understanding what he can do and what he can't. And he's the best one to defend in those spots. You'll often see the assassins going one-on-one or one on the solo laner, or whoever is trying to split push the wave. Adapting has had a lot of responsibility on his shoulders to win that one-on-one and has done so.
My revenge.
Zeros and Variety both look for some poke over the wall. Remember, those are both the mages, even though Variety is your solo laner here. So any poke they find can be quite helpful. Zeros right up at the front of the fight, despite maniaK showing some presence, so feeling uncomfortable. And now he's going to retreat back to that back line.
The more I think about it, the more I think Book of the Dead is the best option for Zeros here instead of Bumbuzz. It's a totally different stylistic thing. You won't be able to get in and deal as much damage. Maybe Soul Reaver would be better. It really helps his late game poke where Morrigan can struggle. The Dark Omen doesn't really do much damage on its own without Soul Reaver, but something with mana to synergize with that Book of Thoth.
They have gotten the jump out, it looks like, from emilZy. That might create a bit of a space for them as Trixtank has the Dazzling Offensive for disengage this time rather as an initiation tool. Another win for NRG as this time Dignitas sent QvoFred to push in mid instead of Zero.
This is good. I just try something else because trying to mash it home in the left is really not going to work out particularly well. Zeros can flex going between both, but you really try and want to synergize these waves going in pretty much simultaneously.
maniaK uses Charge Prey, it looks like, just to reposition within the Phoenix line. Another tool that might give Dignitas a small window, but with Arkkyl using the roll backwards, they're probably not looking to move in anytime soon. Dignitas just trying to find a way to open up a window here, but NRG are being so incredibly patient and stubborn about it. They are not giving Dignitas any easy chance in.
And the more minutes that go by, the less fights NRG has to win because the respawn timers are getting longer if they do end up winning a fight.
That's all it'll take is just one or two, it feels like, at this point, as QvoFred now trying to force adapting into a bad fight. Already inside the tower line is Dignitas, but look at that Raijin damage coming through. Yammyn putting in work, forcing Zeros, Trixtank, and Variety all back. QvoFred's regrouped, looking for some more heals, but still they can't find a way to break this base. Now emilZy wants to be the one to start the party.
He's got to use his ultimate. Trixtank, his is back up and available. Tycho drums might be necessary just for damage. Oh, that CC is good. Trix still up because of that consigned spirits as Adapting's going into the back.
That's a nice healing, but Adapting wants the kills instead. Zero's in some trouble. Variety chunking Adapting will remove him, but 2 kills have already come out for NRG, and QvoFred's quite low. emilZy wants to keep the chase going, but Variety, Arkkyl, and QvoFred have already left. NRG 3 times in a row now have defended.
Man, another great defense by NRG as Qvo still looking for red buff, maybe a little bit greedy in this spot, but is able to get away with that idea. It's really just this poke from Yammyn is becoming way too much for Dignitas to handle. There, he gets out the Aegis from Zeros before the fight even starts and puts him to half health. At least I believe it was Yammyn who got the Aegis away, but certainly did do the damage of the poke. And so now Zeros is half health with no Aegis, never even gets his transformation off whenever Adapting's able to blink forward and keep that fight going in NRG's favor. But again, can NRG now defend a Fire Giant? I mean, they're finally getting to full build. Everyone is level 20. It's only emilZy who's looking for a last item, so maybe they can step up and defend, but do you even want to? You've had such success sitting on your Phoenix. I mean, why should Stoop Kid leave the Stoop?
At this point, I don't know that NRG should either, right? The way that I like to describe those late game fights is they're almost like a 6v6, right? NRG's 6-man is the Phoenix, and Dignitas' 6-man was their big lead, right? It was sort of helping to like tip the scales in their favor. Well, now Dignitas' 6-man's a little bit weaker, right? Their lead means less and less, but NRG still have the Phoenix. It's still doing plenty of damage for them, so they're still happy, I think, to fight kind of on their home court and make Dignitas come in. They haven't proved any ability to initiate yet, so make them answer that question.
I agree, especially with how solid the Morrigan is at these jungle fights. Where it's so hard to keep track of where she is. Was that her ultimate? Was that QvoFred ulting me? Where the communication breakdowns are very, very easy to fall into. And indeed, NRG will end up just giving up this Fire Giant. This will be the 4th Fire Giant for Dignitas, and We'll see if the 4th time's the charm.
Yeah, and if you're Morrigan with Bumbas, you don't want to be trading poke. You know, that's not the situation this Morrigan really wants to be in. So I think Zyrhoes would much prefer to be able to sort of get lost in this jungle and find the loop around. NRG, I think, playing this one very well so far, trying to force Dignitas to fight. The thing is, though, NRG haven't gotten anything off any of these defenses at all yet, except for getting to just keep farming.
Whoa. A tier 1 in mid, Finch. I mean, come on.
That's fair.
What are you talking about? That was huge for NRG.
That's big gains,
that's
right?
100 gold a person, dude.
That's a ward or two, right?
100 gold a person. Goodness.
That's the energy I've been able to grab. So unless they can start turning these defenses into something on the other side of the map, then Dignitas, I feel like, are okay to just keep trying. They haven't really risked anything yet. But in typical sort of stalemate fashion, the longer they stalemate, the bigger the pot gets, right, for whoever eventually wins.
It's already looking pretty stacked right now. 41 minutes in. NRG has been on the back foot for the last, 20?
Yes.
20 minutes, basically, at this point. Maybe a little bit less than that, but not by much. And they've held it successfully every time. No build switch-ups quite yet, I don't think, from either side. Everyone's feeling like their itemization is where they want it. It's just been the execution. Check this out. This time adapting's on the right-hand side because these waves are pushing up.
Right.
NRG didn't feel comfortable going in and pushing those right side waves because of the presence of the Morrigan, who can come in and one-shot you very, very easily. So instead, this is now Dignitas. Instead of 4-1 or 4 or 3-2, it's 3-1-1 is their plan. But again, Trixtank is just getting poked out before the fight even starts.
And this could be a big deal, keeping one more wave pushed up, one more thread that can sort of pull away at the defense here from NRG that's been so stalwart up to this point and not really allowing for any openings. Arkkyl is stepping forward for some free shots. Pluck is going to force out the beads, but can maniaKK survive? Has to go into Lurking While the Waters right away.
That's the Sobek classic. Pluck, Pluck, I didn't mean it. Like, that's what you got to do most of the time, but Trixtank has been just taking free poke. emilitoo's doing a ton of damage to Trix at this point in the game, and he really hasn't been able to frontline effectively because of it.
It's really just this 3v3 that's going to be the story. maniaKK finds Arkkyl, hammer, emilitoo gets the kill. 2 sprints coming out from both sides as Trixtank runs for the hills. Variety throwing out some poke while he can, but NRG win the 3v3 and send Dignitas back.
Zyrhoes can't even full commit to that Phoenix because adapting would certainly be able to force him off of it. Dignitas is just flipping through the playbook at this point. I mean, they're looking at plays from Season 1, and they're like, can I still just buy upgraded beads for 900 gold? Is that an option? Like, that's what my playbook says here, because I'm running out of options at this point. The 4-1 didn't work, the 3-2 didn't work, the 3-1-1 didn't work. Maybe the left side Phoenix is cursed. At this point, you just start thinking...
Yeah, just change it up, right? Just look at let me see something different, right? What's on the right side of the wall over there in the background?
Right.
Maybe I just rather look at that as I go for my siege attempts. But, I mean, Blink Pluck is still pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
As it turns out from Sobek. I mean, maniaKK, I feel like there's been maybe a few questions for him on this NRG roster, but he's answering all of them for me here with this Sobek performance. He's done such a good job of keeping variety in check for them, of being another tool for them in these fights in terms of initiation and burning beads. They're able to take down Arkkyl this time and force Dignitas back. But again, the question remains, are NRG just going to keep playing defense?
Now, this is an interesting idea from NRG. Instead of sitting back and playing defense, they're grouping as 5 in the jungle, and you don't expect Dignitas to have a whole lot of wards throughout, because what would they need wards for? NRG's been sitting at home for the last few minutes. Arkyl's got to be careful, because he might be the one, and he'd be the worst one to get picked. No, I believe he did spot out the opposition, because he still doesn't have his purification beads, and there were some pings coming through, though that could have been from NRG saying where they wanted to hide. I think it was.
Oh, I don't know that QvoFred recognizes that this is happening, but NRG stepped forward just a hair too soon. Trixtank with a dazzling offensive is going to find a stun and tons of damage through as well. emilitoo has to use Aegis, but it's QvoFred who's low in the backside.
Adapting has to go up and down, and he's the first one to hit the ground. Yammyn get a dash in as well. Trix and Variety all over him. The mid laner falls for NRG, and now the chase is on.
Wow, 20 minutes of patience give way to this. Zyrhoes is the one that finds emilitoo. emilZy just trying to get his back off because he's dead to rights otherwise. Zyrhoes has a maniaKK stuck all by himself, and Ryan, I mean, this very well could just be all that she wrote.
That
NRG
hurts.
defend 4 times in a row, 20 minutes of patience. They go for this play. I think it's the right idea, but they just step out too soon. They can't find anyone. It's a deicide, and Dignitas should be able to end.
Suppress the Insolent is just the worst lead in that. You know, if this is a stand-up comedy routine, that's leading with your worst joke.
Right.
You know, you don't want to start with your best. I get it. You want to pull the beads away from QvoFred. You want to put him in combat so he can't blink away from you. But how about a blink pluck from maniaKK? How about a hammer from emilZy? emilitoo, I think, pulled the trigger a little bit too early, gave the goose away, and QvoFred is able to overhead kick the follow-up CC. And from there, once Qvo gets out and is able to hit the panic button and say, come help me, and Dignitas is there in a heartbeat, to their credit,
yeah.
NRG knows. I mean, you could tell almost that adapting goes up and down. It looks like a boneheaded decision. He knows that is the end of the game, one way or the other. He either needs to kill people or he needs to get killed and just give up, because that was the only two outcomes from that point. There was no more stalling or defense from that point on.
Go ahead and vote for us for your MVP in that Mixer poll. We should have that up there for you now. To me, I think what really made the key difference there, and we weren't giving Dignitas enough credit for it, was that they weren't losing their sieges by much, right?
Right.
When they go in and NRG are able to defend, it's 4 against 3s in NRG's favors, right? Or 3 against 2s or something like that. Because of that, NRG were starting to realize that they were never going to win by enough of a margin to be able to push offensively just off of their defense. They had to try and make a play, and that play doesn't work. Dignitas win. So their strong siege in that they didn't lose by too much is what I think was so key.
Exactly. And we saw NRG play so patiently, but it ends up being Dignitas who comes out with being kind of just willing to take those losses, those incremental bruises, and not try to force it home. And I think that's a lesson that Dignitas need to learn the hard way. Wherever, remember how many games have they had against Rival where they're sieging and they're sieging and they're sieging, they can't do it. So let's just all in the Titan. We'll Yana assault it and see what's the worst that could happen, right?
Right.
This time they show some patience, they show some discipline, and it ends up paying off. It took a bit, but they got there.
Believe it or not, that was only game 1, a 40-something minute slugfest. We still got plenty more to go in this set. Let's get it back over to the desk and let them break it down.
Thanks a lot, John. Thanks a lot, Ryan. We're here in between games 1 and 2 to sort of break down whatever that was. I mean, I think I counted 7 separate Phoenix attempts, and all of them were shut down.
NRG, I think for what it's worth, did a fantastic job playing underneath their Phoenixes and really utilizing their team strengths to make sure that they could keep holding out. But in the end, it was Team Dignitas who ended up trying to just run over top of them, and it just didn't really make sense for NRG to push out as far as they did from the base. The second that they started moving forward, I think, is the moment that Dignitas realized they could fully capitalize off of this death.
Yeah, I mean, it was really kind of ridiculous. What I go down to, you know, when I was a young boy, when I was a young lad, as Hindu would say, we focused on something they taught was the Beatitudes, and patience is one of them. And NRG showed it for a long time, but they lost their patience at the end. They thought that they would be able to come out of the base and do what they did on the defensive, on the offensive, but just not the case. Variety and the squad, Team Dignitas, winds up pulling it out and taking the victory. Fantastic stuff from Variety. He's actually going to be your MVP on the Baron Samedi. Got to give credit to the control mage.
And to be fair to Dignitas also, I think that they are definitely counting their lucky stars for the fact that NRG chose to push off of those Phoenixes, because they were just not having a whole lot of success with the Baron on the sieges. It was just amidst those jungle fights that I think Dignitas were really able to fully run down NRG and basically separate them, because underneath the Phoenixes, all 5 of them grouped up all the time. Really difficult stuff to deal with into that composition, but the moment that they all split up, well, we saw what happened next, and NRG finally fell.